Greetings, neighbors. This is Reflections, a show sponsored by the Paducah Cooperative Ministry, where we, all of us together, do God's work with human hands. My name's Gregory Waldrop, and I'm the pastor at Fountain Avenue United Methodist Church, and I'm one of the hosts for the Reflection Show. Our other host, Karen Winkle, could not be here today, so I'm here and have the special treat to host you and also our neighbors at the West Kentucky United Methodist Family Services Omnivision. We are so glad to have the treatment director with us, Beverly Craig, and we have the trainer and recruiter, Elizabeth Blumrick. Welcome.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
Both of you
Thank you for having us on the program.
We're very glad you're here. We're very glad for the work you do. Tell us about this important work.
Well, we're a treatment foster care agency. We provide foster care for children who have therapeutic issues, children who may have a diagnosable mental or emotional condition or may have behavioral difficulties because of the home of origin they have come out of, because of neglect or some problem with their biological family. What Elizabeth does is to recruit families who would like to foster parent, and they go through screening and training, and then once they're trained and certified as foster parents, then we place foster children in their homes and work with them intensely on a weekly basis, sometimes more often than that, to help them be successful in parenting their foster children.
Right. And providing a therapeutic kind of environment for
Right,
foster
and that's
children, not only to be safe, but to be sort of healed from.
And that's certainly what we hope, is that through the love and the nurture and the patience and the guidance that the foster parents provide, with support from our resource coordinators and from other agencies, that children can overcome some of the negativity of their past and feel positive about themselves and go on to lead happy lives and be productive.
Right. About how many children in this area? You serve how large an area?
Well, we're in two areas of Kentucky, the Western Kentucky area, the Purchase area, and we also have an office in the Madisonville area. So we serve the Western Kentucky area. Right now we have 42 children in our foster homes. And that's a small portion of the number of children who actually are in foster care in Kentucky. We're a growing agency. Part of what we hope with being on your program today is that we'll generate more interest among your viewers through curiosity and interest, that they'll contact us to find out more about foster parenting, if not with us and with other agencies in the area, because we need lots more foster parents for the children.
Remind us where you are and how to get connected with you. We'll do that at the end of the program as well, but tell us now as well.
Okay, we're located at 450 Park Avenue here in Paducah, and our phone number is 270-443-9004.
Great. Well, we'll get that again later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Trainer, recruiter, tell us about the things you provide for foster parents.
Well, our agency is very fortunate. We have some additional help from our United Methodist Board, and we're supported by, in some capacity, through the Memphis Conference. And we've been very fortunate to be able to do some extra things for our foster parents. We try and have lots of trainings for them. We try and provide just some extra things. We take them on trips. We had the opportunity this year to go to Holiday World, and that was very nice, and they enjoyed it. And this month we're actually doing some appreciation for our foster parents by providing dinners with the director in 3 different locations throughout Western Kentucky. But you know, we need lots of foster parents, and not just lots of foster parents. We need foster parents who are willing to take the children, like Beverly talked about, children with therapeutic issues, sibling groups, children that are harder to place, that might not traditionally be a child that someone just thinking, oh, I'd like to have a child, would think of. So we have kind of a special population that we're looking for and seeking out and trying to recruit.
Now, there are various levels of need that these children or these groups of children evidence, right?
Yes.
So you wouldn't be, if a volunteer could sort of choose which level
Certainly.
of need that they'd like to provide.
Right.
Yes.
One of the things that happens when our foster parents go through the training is that they learn what areas of need they think they could handle, which things might be something that they have experience or knowledge in and have expertise in, and which things might be a little difficult for them. And certainly when we're contacted with a child, we obtain as much information as we can to pass that along to the prospective foster parent so that they can make as informed a decision as possible on whether to begin fostering that child. One of the things we ask them to do is talk it over with their spouse. If they're married, don't have to be married to become a foster parent, but if they are, then of course discuss that with their spouse. And we also encourage people to pray about it because it is a huge commitment. It's a monumental decision. It's life-changing for the child, but it's also life-changing for the foster parents. And we want people to make that decision based not only on what their head says, but what their heart says as well.
Well, and I think it's also clear that even after having been trained, there are some seasons in people's lives where that are more amenable to caring for children, and some that you might choose not to take the foster children. That's still a possibility. Each situation is open to a foster parent's yes or no, right?
Correct. We always leave it up to the foster parent to make that determination as to whether that child is a child they could parent, or if it's the right time for them to accept a child into their home. We don't put pressure on them because that's not what the family needs, that's not what the child coming into the home needs. We want it to be a decision they reach based on what they believe they can do and how they feel led to try to help in a child's life.
Yeah.
And in ideal situations, we're sometimes able to utilize visits. So a child would go visit with the family maybe for a day or for a weekend, and that is a wonderful opportunity to kind of see if everything's going to work out.
I guess there are even places for like respite care when foster parents need a weekend off, and there's weekend kind of warriors that fill in and who have the same training and provide the same level of care.
Right. Obviously, you know about foster care, and that's helpful. You are correct. We do provide respite for our families. Our families get 2 days of paid respite per month so that the family can have a break. Plus, the child gets to go and learn about other people. You know, one of the things that's really helpful for children who've come out of negative situations or who've had very difficult circumstances in their life is to learn how other people cope with situations, that other people can be accepting, other people can be open, and get a different point of view on how a family works too. Because kids who've come out of abusive or neglectful homes have a very, very negative view and a very sort of skewed view of what families like. So in their foster family, they see what a positive, productive, adaptive, loving family is like, and in a respite home, they can also see that same sort of thing. Plus, it kind of gives them a break. You know, in their home, like all of us as children, we have more rules and more regulations and chores that we're responsible for, and our foster children have that as well. When you go to a respite provider, it's like going and visiting an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent. You have a little more freedom. A little less of the day-to-day structure of the home. Still structured in the respite home, but you don't have to worry about doing homework. You don't have to worry about doing a daily chore. You might have to help with making up your bed or doing the dishes as a way to contribute while you're in respite, but still not the regular demands that everyday life has for the child in their foster home.
And it gives the child, you know, that sense of, there are other foster children, obviously, oftentimes in the respite home. And I think it makes them feel like that they're not the only ones going through this. Because oftentimes it can be a kind of a lonely feeling to be a foster child and feel like maybe I'm the only one dealing with this, or I'm the only one going through that. And it gives them someone else to kind of relate to and say, hey, I've been through this, and this has been tough for me, and this is how I've been able to deal with it.
Well, I know the state of Kentucky officially and thoroughly attempts to reconcile children to their homes of origin, which means that some foster parenting results in a wonderful connection and a sad departure as well. What's the numbers on that? How many foster kids return back to their home of origin?
Of the children we have, I would say probably about half are able to return home. Some children don't return home because they'll age out of foster care while they're in the foster care system. And what I mean by aging out is that they reach the age of 18.
Right.
At that time, a young person can determine the course of their own life. If he or she wants to remain in foster care, they can extend their commitment to the age of 21. And we've had several young adults who have decided to do that, to remain with their foster family and continue going to school and pursue a post-high school education while remaining with their foster family. Children who are able to return home usually have parents who've worked on resolving the issues that resulted in the child being removed. Now, you don't want to say it's all the parents or it's all the child. Very young children, oftentimes it is the parents who are responsible for the child being removed. For preteens, teens, especially older teens, it may be that the young person has contributed in some way to the difficulties that the family has had. So one of the things that the cabinet focuses on, and we do too, is family therapy to help resolve problems that keep children out of their home so that they are able to return. Just yesterday, we had a young man, 16-year-old young man, who's turning 17 tomorrow, to be able to return home to his family. Both he and his mom worked on the issues that resulted in his removal so that he could return. And that was a wonderful success for him, for his mother. The foster family really liked this young man. And fortunately, our foster parents really like all of their foster children. They were sad to see him go, but they were glad that he was successful because this is what he had wanted, it's what his mom had wanted, it's what needed to happen so that that family can heal and they can continue as a family. And it leaves this foster family open to accept another young teen into their home.
Right. I'm so pleased to hear this broad network of provision that the church, along with the state, is making possible and putting in place. It really does take a whole host of folks, doesn't it, to raise a strong, healthy child into adulthood, and it sounds like being a great part of that.
Well, we hope we are. We're certainly trying to be, and our partnership with the United Methodist churches in this area has been such a benefit to us because, like Elizabeth said, we're able to provide extras beyond what foster care typically can do because we do have the additional support from churches in the Western Kentucky area.
Yeah, and of course that'd be open to anybody, not just United Methodist, right?
Right, those were just the folks that helped establish our agency in this area.
And what could a church provide? What kind of things might a church get involved with your group?
Well, it's close to Christmas. In fact, we've already started sending out letters. Every Christmas, the state of Kentucky, for a holiday gift, I think gives us about $60. Is it 60?
Yes.
And which is a very minimal amount. That's not very much to be able to get our children the things they need, plus some additional things that are fun. So to kick in, our board and different donors provide $150 for each one of our children, and that helps tremendously. In addition to that, if a church wasn't comfortable or wasn't able to give $150 because these are trying economic times, they could also help with a $20 gift that we give each one of our foster children and our foster parents' biological children at our Christmas party. So, and just donations throughout the year are helpful. Like I said, we try and do things quarterly. Churches have volunteered the church here in Paducah Broadway United Methodist Church let us use their pool. And so we had like a spring swimming time, and that was a wonderful thing. Our foster parents really enjoyed it. So there are lots of things that churches can do.
Yeah, I was remember you all putting the word out that you could use musical instruments that you know, perhaps
Right,
people have laying around there.
Yeah, any sort of thing like that. We have children who naturally want to be involved in the same sorts of things at school as their peers are. It may be band, it may be sports, it may be drama. And paying for an instrument is very costly. If you've ever been a parent and you've had to buy an instrument for band, it's a huge expense, and it's something that, of course, our foster parents are not able to do solely on their own. So donating any sort of good instrument to us is helpful, so that if we have a child who's interested in being in the band, then we can say, okay, we have these instruments, or any that you're interested in or have previous experience with.
Neat.
We also, as an agency, and because of our help through the United Methodist Churches, are able to help our foster parents in some of the costs for extracurricular activities for the children in their home. We'll pay for extra tutoring if a child needs that above and beyond what the school's able to provide. If they need to improve in math or reading or some particular subject. We also, because kids are involved in extracurriculars, will pay $50 up to $50 a month for a child to be involved in an extracurricular activity, such as basketball or band or Spanish club, something of that nature. Because, you know, there are lots of hidden costs to kids being in school that you're not prepared for, or you don't always budget or think about. So we're glad that we can offer this as an additional resource for our families. And we want the children in foster care to have as normal an experience as they can, and that means being involved in extracurricular activities at school. We also encourage our foster parents to get their children involved in youth group and church activities, because that's another outlet for them, another way to build pro-social relationships and develop positive peer relationships.
Neat. I know the children have a medical insurance that come with them, and there is a stipend that's paid for their care to the foster parents as well, right?
That's correct. Each child coming into foster care does have the state Medicare insurance that covers their medical expenses. And they also are paid a small amount. It's not a huge amount, but it covers their expenses for food and some of their clothing, for utilities and just the basics of daily life. Folks aren't going to get rich from foster parenting. That's not why they go into foster parenting, not because they want to make a lot of money, but because for some of them it's they want to give back. They see this as a way of helping someone. I've had life experience, I have knowledge, I have space, I have the energy, I have the time, and I want to do something to help someone else. And helping children is something that a lot of people are very motivated to do. It takes very special people, very caring and loving people to foster parent. Parenting, as we all know, because I know we're all parents, is the hardest job that you ever have, and the one that you don't get trained for. Fortunately, our foster parents do get training, but there's still things that come up that are unexpected. That's why we have resource coordinators in the home weekly. That's why children are involved in therapy. That's why we have close relationships with the teachers, so that we can provide the support to help with those unexpected situations, so that those can be handled or resolved pretty easily, we hope, or get to the root of what's causing the problem, so that the child doesn't continue to have those difficulties.
That's great. Well, give us a little insight into the training, the background check, and all that sort of thing that you can expect if you...
Well, what I'll do is I'll kind of walk you through just if someone were to call our agency today and say, I'd like some more information, we would send them a packet. And after we sent them a packet, I generally would do a follow-up call, see how they're doing, see if they received their packet, and offer to meet with them. And then we would meet and start some preliminary paperwork, their application, their background checks. They have to give us a copy of their W-2s. They have to fill out an income sheet to show that their income is enough to support themselves without using foster care as an income. And then they also have to go through lots of training. We do about 30 hours of initial training and then an additional 24 hours of some supplemental training that we do, specifically on children that have suffered from child sexual abuse and also on therapeutic needs, training that Omnivisions, our company, and a place called, and another agency and Duke University developed, and it's called Together Facing the Challenge. And we're very proud of that training because it gives just that additional help for our foster parents. It gives them a couple extra tools in their toolbox. And so they go through all of that, and in addition to that, have to pass medicals and also get a TB skin test reading, or at least something that shows that they're not at risk of TB, depending upon their profession. And then they also have to have CPR and first aid. We complete all that and then do a home study where I go to their home and make sure that their home is safe and ask them lots and lots of questions. We complete the home study, and once that is all done, then they are approved as foster parents. And then they will be available to us for us to give them a call should we get a child that's similar to the child that they've told us that they're interested in parenting.
Great. So a lot of resources, a lot of preparation.
A lot of preparation. It's about 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Great. Is the do you all also do adoption?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like you'd mentioned earlier, that when children come into foster care, their goal when they come in is to reunify them with their family. Sometimes that doesn't always work out. Sometimes that's not a possibility. If a foster child has their goal changed from reunification to adoption, then what we start discussing and their state worker starts discussing with the child, with our foster family, is the possibility of that foster family adopting that foster child or those foster children, because sometimes it may be a sibling group. Because the child and the family have had a chance to get to know one another over the months or sometimes years that the child's been in the home, naturally that's the first place that the cabinet seeks for the child to remain. Oftentimes there's such a strong attachment of the child to the parents to the child, that even though it's a sad time in a way because the child's losing their biological family, they don't have to worry about losing the family that they know, that they've lived with for the past few months or the past few years, so that they can be adopted by their foster family. We've had several families that has happened with. We had a foster family adopt a sibling group of 3, with that adoption being finalized just 2 weeks ago. Those children had been in the home for quite some time, for about 3 years. And it was just a lengthy process for everything to occur where they could be adopted. And the kids and the parents are thrilled with how things have been able to help them become a permanent family.
Now, do you provide any services beyond after adoption, or?
Well, on the Western Kentucky side, in addition to the Foster to Adopt, we also do international adoptive home studies and post-placement services after that. We do follow-ups with them at 3 and 6 and 12-month intervals, depending upon the requirements of the agency. And then we also do domestic adoptions and have done some work with the adoption attorney, Greg Northcutt, here in this area in Calvert City.
Great. So you're sort of a full service
We have a full range of services, yes.
That's great. That's great. Well, we're getting close to our time being up. Anything else we need to know about all the good things you do at West Kentucky United Methodist Family Service?
We couldn't do what we do if it were not for the dedicated foster parents that we have. We often try to tell everyone how wonderful our folks are and to give them as much credit as possible, because these are the people who transform and change the lives of these children and these youths who come into their home. They do a very, very hard job. They do a job that's more difficult than regular parenting, because regular parenting involves you knowing that child from the time they're born. And if you're the mom, knowing them from the time you start feeling the move inside you. When you take a child into your home who has had experiences that you don't know about, it's really a challenge to be able to work through getting to know that child, helping them to be able to trust you. And our parents put in lots of time, lots of energy, lots of patience, lots of prayer, lots of time with us on the phone, lots of time with their resource coordinator to help them get through the rough periods. There are lots of rewards for foster parenting, just like there are for parenting. You see a child grow and change and achieve things that you knew they were capable of, but they might not have known that. And through your encouragement, you're able to help them to make those achievements and to feel confident about themselves. We, like we said earlier, need more foster parents.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the problems that existed 10 years ago when I got into working in foster care continue to exist, with families having difficulties and families breaking apart and biological parents not being able to be the kind of parent that they want to be or that their child needs them to be. So we need foster parents who will step in and say, hey, I know this is tough, but I want to do it, and I know with your help, with God's help, with the help of all of the supports in the community, I can do it.
Very important. Tell us again your address and your phone number for those of us in Western Kentucky in the Purchase area.
Okay, our phone number is 443-9004, and our address is 450 Park Avenue here in Paducah. That's zip codes 42001.
Great.
And we'll be glad to tell anybody any additional information they'd like to know about foster parenting.
And you'll come to church groups and civic clubs and tell your story and encourage people.
Yes.
Yes, we
That's
encourage
great.
people to contact us if they would like us to speak at any kind of civic event or church group. We'd be happy to come speak there.
Super. Elizabeth Blumrick and Beverly Craig, we are so glad for your work with us.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here today.
Again, thank you.
You're very welcome. And we're glad you all have been with us today on Reflections. We hope wherever you are and however you can, you'll join us in doing God's work with human hands. Shalom.
In mission